שרת מלאכי עליון ממלך מלאכי המלאכים הקדוש ברוך הוא שלום שלום עליכם מלאכי שרת מלאכי עליון ממלך מלאכי המלאכים הקדוש ברוך הוא ירדאי שלום עליכם מלאכי שרת שלום מלאכי עליון ממלך מלאכי המלאכים הקדוש ברוך הוא ברכוני לשלום מלאכי שלום מלאכי עליון ממלך מלאכי המלאכים הקדוש ברוך הוא צאתכם לשלום מלאכי שלום Last time we were here on this bima 2 weeks ago, like how this is a bima now, for the next hour and a half, this is a bima. We talked about how we at Mishkan were treating this whole month, but specifically this weekend, like it's the high holidays. Because it's Pride weekend. So Chag, Pride Sameach, and Shabbat Shalom. Feel free to turn somebody near you to somebody near you right now who you didn't come with to say, you are fabulous and beautiful. And Shabbat Shalom. That's true. Thank you.
Thanks, Henry. Thank you.
So much of this month is, and this week and this weekend in particular, is about stepping out into the open, in public, and not actually even necessarily even needing to do anything special other than be yourself, which in this day and age is actually pretty freaking special if we can be that and do that. And we started doing these outdoor Shabbats during the pandemic for health reasons the summer of 2021. And we came out here to this place and we soon realized that as important as it was to be able to sort of breathe freely outdoors, something else was happening, which was that we were coming out here with a sense of trepidation about our safety for other reasons. Did we actually feel safe being out as Jews in this country, in this moment? Did we feel safe? And I think like that first weekend, we came out here and we sang just like we are right now. And we were a little nervous about it. And with every passing song and every passing moment, there was a sense of pride. There was a sense of joy and satisfaction and meaning and having come through something over the generations to be able to be out here and be celebrating Shabbat, singing in Hebrew together and not to feel afraid. And I also want to just thank our security team and our staff and everybody who's creating an environment for us that also helps us feel that way, week in and week out. Thank you. But it's like we always say, the antidote to feeling like there are some people who might want there to be less of us or fewer of us in the world is to make more of us. But that is to say, more joy, more love, more music, more Shabbat, more in public, more out, more pride. So welcome to Mishkan. Is there anybody who is here for the first time? Put your hand in the air. Woo! Welcome, Heather Moran, Executive Director of Sixth and I. So fun to have you here. And for everybody who's visiting to the Jews of Color Fellowship that are meeting here and checking out different synagogues all over America and here in Chicago with us tonight, welcome. We're so happy to have all of you. So happy that Ronan Goforth will be drashing later. Woo-hoo. So happy the weather is beautiful for us. And I think without further ado,
let's Shabbos.
Let's Shabbos. All right, so the words for everything we're going to be singing are on the pages in front of you. If you need one, if you need a sheet, there at the table in the back, along with water and temporary tattoos and a name tag if you want one.
אשר נשבעתי באפים יבואון אל מנוחתי.
If you're feeling like you're able to stand and you want to move around a little bit, the custom is in Psalm 29 to stand. Mizmor leDavid, havu l'Adonai, ne'elim, havu l'Adonai, kavod ba'os, havu l'Adonai, kevod shemo yishtachavu l'Adonai, v'hadra kodesh kol Adonai, al hamayim el hakavod nirim, Adonai, hamayim can take a seat if you like. Ana bekoach, answer us with your strength so that we can be soft, so that we can relax, so that we can breathe, so that we can open up. Help us have the strength to actually relinquish control for a minute on Shabbat and just breathe in and exhale and just be.
Ana bekoach gedulat yemincha tatir tzerura kabel rinatam chasagreinu tareinu nora again. Ana bekoach gedulat yemincha tatir tzerura kabel rinatam chasagreinu tareinu nora.
Sit up a little straighter. Breathe a little deeper. Inhale and exhale. Relax your shoulders.
Shabbat shalom, everyone.
Shabbos. Shabbos here by Stephen.
So the one of the theses of Shabbat, by disrupting our work week, by telling us to set aside all of the doing and the tasking and the accomplishing that we normally do outside of this space, is that you are enough. That what you bring to this space is exactly what you need to do this thing called Shabbat. If you are feeling joyful, there are songs for joy. If you are feeling heartbroken, there are moments for holding that. If you are feeling angry or frustrated by whatever it might be, there is space to breathe and to let it out a little bit. The reason that you are enough on Shabbat is the radical but also fundamental recognition that each of us is a reflection of the divine. And that, I believe, is also the thesis of Pride as well. That not only are you enough, but that you are sacred, that you are holy. That how you love and whom you love and how you express your joy and what you find your joy in is enough and it is sacred. And how you mourn and the wounds you carry and the scars that are maybe still healing are also sacred as well. That the righteous indignation that you might feel right now about the state of the world around us also has space here at Shabbos, in Pride, because that is also sacred, because that moves us forward. And so in a moment, we're going to sing Lecha Dodi. We're going to welcome in what we imagine most of the year as the Shabbat bride, but tonight, folks, she is a drag queen, and she is fabulous. So as we welcome in Miss Shabbat, drag queen, we'll all stand and we'll face one direction. I also want you to welcome in every part of yourself. the joyful parts, and the broken parts, and the angry parts, and the tired parts, and the distracted parts, the parts that feel in love and the parts that have fallen out of love, the parts that you love and the parts that maybe you are still struggling to learn how to love. To welcome all of you into this space, walking hand in hand with fabulous Shabbat, recognizing that you are enough and you are sacred and you are loved. One of the words that we've changed in Lecha Dodi for this particular service, if you look 3 stanzas down, is usually we say Kimsos Chatan al Kala, just as a groom and a bride rejoice in one another. And we've changed it tonight to Kimsos Lev Ba'hava, as the heart rejoices in love, as a way of saying that regardless of where you are in this beautiful rainbow here, that you have space here, that you are loved, and you belong just as much here in this text as you belong anywhere else in the world.
Yeah.
שמוע וזכור בדיבורך, השמיענו אל המיוחד. אדוני אחד
ושמו אחד,
ושמו תפארת ולצילה.
Lecha Dodi לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. Lecha Dodi לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
לא תבושי ולא תקמי, מה תשתוכחי ומה תאמי. בל יחסו אני עמי, ונמנתה יראתי לה.
Lecha Dodi לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. Lecha Dodi לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
והיו לי בסיסת שוסעים, ורחקו כל מבלעים.
יסיס עליי אלוהי,
כמסוס לב באהבה.
Lecha Dodi לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. Lecha Dodi לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
ימין ושמאל תהיי, ואת אדוני תעריצי.
אל יעדיף פן פרצי,
ונשמחה ונגילה.
Lecha Dodi לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. Lecha Dodi לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
We stand and greet the Shabbos queen, from whichever direction, in theory, she came in, which could have been a lot of directions. So I invite us to do what the davening team is doing right now, which is face the setting sun, and welcome her as she walks toward us as the sun sets, and we bring in the Holy Shabbos.
בואי בשלום עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצרה. תוך אמוני הסגולה, בואי כלה, בואי כלה. Lecha Dodi לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
Lecha Dodi לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
There ain't no other way, baby, I was born
somebody near you, maybe the person who you told they were fabulous and beautiful earlier, to introduce yourself and welcome them to Mishkan and find out what brought them here tonight and how they're doing. Share a little love. We'll come back in a moment. Sorry for the weirdness of that key. It was good for you. It was good for Stephen. It was good for Stephen. Oh, God. All right. All right. Whew. All right. I know. I'm sorry. For me, too. I know. Do you know why? Because the verses, it made put the verses in a better key, but then the actual chorus was, yeah. Sorry. What?
It was a hit, though.
Do you think? I was looking at the words so much that I didn't even look out. Were people into it? Yeah. All right, good.
I love it. This is like one of those moments in Mishkan that everybody like breaks their fronts out and are like, my shul.
Oh, really? Is that the case?
Yeah.
I need to tell people to tag us then. Now you do, yes.
Make that building grow a little bit. It's right there. Right?
This is just like in The Frisco Kid.
Yes.
When
yes,
he's
we're just
trying to
waiting.
make the sun set.
Now? Not yet. Not yet. No, not yet. I just showed it to Lizzie for the first time last week.
I'd never seen it. No, it like made my year. I loved it.
I have quoted that
Yeah.
2 years old.
Yes. I think I want to do announcements at Fight. I mean, I feel like we should just go. I don't think we should do announcements. I think we should just call everybody back. And you agree? Okay, great. All right. What? Yeah, I agree. Let's just kind of keep moving. Maybe honestly, actually, maybe before Ronan speaks, to just get it out of the way, so that then when they speak, then we can wrap up services and not. Yeah.
Yeah, she loved
We're gonna stand. We keep standing and turn to page 3 and face east. Baruch et Adonai HaMevorach Baruch Mevorach Leolam בחוכמה פותח שערים ובתבונה משנה עתים מחליף את הזמנים מסדר את הכוכבים מביש מלכים ורק ירק רצונו בוא יום ולילה גולל אור מפני חושך וחושך מפני אור ומעביר יום ומבין לילה ומבדיל בין יום ובין לילה אדוני צבאות שמו אל חי וקיים תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד ברוך אתה אדוני המעריב הרבים אהבת עולם בית ישראל עמך אהבת תורה מצוות חוקים משפטים ותעני למען כן אדוני אלוהינו משך בינו ובקומנו נשיח בחוקיך ונשמח בדברי תורתך ומצוותיך לעולם ועד כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו ובהם נגי יומם ולילה ואהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל. I invite you to cover or close your eyes. We take a full breath for each word of the Shema, connecting all together into that which connects all of us. את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך. As we go into Michamocha now, we're honoring all of the seas that we have crossed, all of the difficult places, the narrow places that we have stood as communities, as Jewish communities, as queer communities. And the particular tune that we are going to use tonight for this was written by Debbie Friedman. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of her. Have you heard of her? Yeah, exactly. And so they actually wrote a book about her. Someone whose name I forgot, wrote a book about her recently, a children's book. And it's a beautiful children's book. And it talks about how, here's this person who grew up like wanting to sing and dance and going to summer camp and feeling all the love and going to Israel and being on a kibbutz and seeing people singing and dancing together, and then coming back into synagogue and seeing people sitting with their hands folded, being quiet and being bored. And she was like, where's the love? And so she knew how to play guitar and she sang, and she had no qualifications. She couldn't even read music, but she started writing music to the prayers in synagogue and started sharing it at camp. And it turned out people really dug it. And these tunes spread like wildfire. And in synagogues across the country, she was told, and people were told, don't sing those songs. They're not the tradition. And she faced a ton of sexism, not to mention the fact that she was a lesbian, which she could not tell people for the most part. That was a secret that only toward the end of her life, which ended tragically about a decade ago from cancer, that she shared with people. Because what she was doing was so out there, so renegade, so awesome and different, that she felt like she couldn't be too different. And so we want to sing Miriam's song tonight. Miriam was different. Each one of us is different. And we should feel like we can sing and dance and that the waters should part for us. Thank you for demonstrating. And that we should raise up a generation of Debbie Friedmans. So feel free to rise and to dance. Moshe was reminded on the walk over here tonight and by a few of you tonight that last year on this night, we were both celebrating and also grieving. You can take a seat if you want. Because last year on this weekend, as we were celebrating Pride, we had just learned that Roe versus Wade had been overturned in the Supreme Court. And it is exactly a year later. And in states like Illinois, where abortion is still legal, thank God, we are making it possible for many people who can't get health care that they need in the states in which they live to get it here. But what that means is somewhere between 25 and 40% of providers are being, providers are providing somewhere between 25% more and 40% more abortions to account for all of the people who have to come from out of state, which means there are that many people who probably can't make it from out of state because they don't have the resources to get here and are therefore being forced to have children that they didn't want to bring into the world. And it is dangerous, and it's unfair, and it's scary. Let alone the hundreds of bills in every state across the country, some of which will pass, some of which won't, targeting trans people, trans children, trans teenagers, their families, trying to make life harder, trying to make it harder to get health care or illegal, trying to make it considered child abuse to actually give your kid the health care they're asking for and want, and are working with doctors to try to get, trying to pretend these people don't exist, or trying to make them illegal. And the result, of course, is deep emotional distress and depression and sometimes suicide. So as we move into this prayer for healing tonight, on this day and on this weekend that is full of so much of a sense of joy and a feeling of progress, of having moved forward, and thank God for the forward which we have made, for the progress which we have made, for the forward we have come and the progress we have made, there is still moving backward that is actively happening. People are working very hard on trying to move us backward. And so what we can do in this moment is pray, but what we can do when Shabbos is over is work, to try to work equally hard, to be an equal opposite force, to try to move us forward into a world. Thank you. Yeah. So I want to ask you now to just close your eyes and think of a person who you know who needs support, who needs love, who needs care, who needs healing. And maybe it's along the lines of what I've just described, and maybe it's somebody who's just feeling a little down, a little lonely. Maybe it's somebody you're related to. Maybe it's just somebody you know. And send them a prayer. Send them a well wish. Send them a refuah shlema, healing of body and spirit. Ah, there goes the sun. Shabbos. And the way that we Jews do prayers for healing is we don't just think about them, we actually say names out loud. So I'll ask you, if you have somebody you're thinking about tonight, to actually turn to whoever it is that you've already made friends with, to let them know who you're praying for, and allow them to also pray, and allow all of us to pray for each other's people. That's what community does. Take a moment. Refuah shlema, refuat hanefesh, refuat haguf, sending healings of body and mind and spirit to every one of those folks. And everyone who wonders whether they will get the care they need, get the health care they need, get the love they need, sending a prayer that they in fact can and will. We're on page 4.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom share sorrow and pain. Hashkiveinu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom. Hamideinu shoreinu Pros aleinu sukat shlomecha, Baruch atah Adonai, Borei sukat shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael ve'al Yerushalayim. All right, we're going to transition now into some words of Torah. All right, so while Ronan is on their way up to the Bima, I just want to say welcome again. Oh, and now I can take these off. I wasn't just wearing them to look cool, but they're fun, aren't they? I want to say welcome to everybody again. And being June, we've already covered that it's Pride Month, but it's also the beginning of Builder Renewal Season. And yeah, thank you. But that means that if you have not already heard from us, you'll be hearing from us, inviting you, imploring you, inspiring you to once again recommit. If you have been part of the community and you've been a builder, to rejoin, because it means something to you and because you benefit from it and you like bringing your friends. And sometimes when we do things like this, you pull out your phone just to show people on social media, this is the shul I go to. Don't forget to tag us when you do that. And if you have not been part of this community officially, I just want to extend the loving invitation to take that step. And if and when you do, I guarantee you that it won't just be like clicking a button on a website and nothing changes. We will call you. We will want to learn more about you. We will try and figure out which small groups to hook you up with so that you can meet people who share interests or life stages or go to a Shabbat dinner. Maybe you'll meet your partner here. I've done like 6 weddings. And I didn't do my own wedding, but I'm one of those people. So anyway, the month of July, we're spending in kind of a low-key way. This is our last service like this for a month, and then we'll be back in August again doing this. But for the month of July, we'll be meeting in Wells Park for Torah study on Shabbat morning, without mics, just like Rabbi Stephen and some Torah. And there'll be some kids programs on those mornings as well. You can check our website for all the various goings on in July, which is a lot of small groups, actually, like a lot of small group meetups and Shabbat dinners. And we'd love to Jew with you. All right.
Great. So before I hand over the mic to Ronan, I wanted to share a short prayer that is in this beautiful, beautiful prayer book, the Siddur from Congregation Beit Simchat Torah, the LGBTQ synagogue of New York. There's a prayer that we say on Purim and on Hanukkah called the Al Hanisim that talks about the miracles that we experienced in that time, the miracles that we experience today. And this Siddur contains a special one for Pride. Al hanisim ve'al hapurkan ve'al hagevurot ve'al tshuot ve'al hamilchamot she'asita lavotenu limotenu b'yamim hahem bazman hazeh. We thank you for the miraculous deliverance, for the heroism, and for the triumphs in the battle of our ancestors in other days and in our time. In the wake of the civil rights movements, lesbians, gay men, bisexuals, and transgender people of all backgrounds began to organize for the dignity and justice that all of us are due as human beings on this earth. Those who profane your name, claiming that they hate us in the name of God, rose up to criminalize us, pathologize us, brutalize us, and erase us. And you, in your great mercy, stood with us in our time of troubles. You fought alongside us, vindicated us, gave us the courage to stand together, to open our eyes and the eyes of the world around us, to see that the freedom and the right to love belongs to all of your creations. You have given us the strength to witness and to create wonders, to be who we are and to love whom we love, not only in the safety of our homes, but outside in the light of the world, to live as Jews and Jewish adjacent folks in the embrace of community, to sanctify our unions and celebrate ourselves before each other and before you. Even ma'asu habonim haita l'rosh pina, the stone that the builders rejected has become the cornerstone. And a particular al-hanisim, a particular miracle blessing that I get to experience is when one of my students becomes my teacher. And this is very true of Ronan Goforth, who is one of our amazing Exploring Judaism alumni. And also, that's a big deal, folks, who has probably handed you a Machzor at High Holidays or Siddur at Shabbat at some point that you visited us, has become a phenomenal leader in our community and a teacher of Torah, deep Torah in their own right. And with that, I'm going to hand it to you.
Well, I've already cried in front of Rabbi Stephen once before, so let's try not to do it again. Shabbat Shalom. Happy Pride, everyone.
Shabbos!
Does everyone just want to take a really deep breath with me? All right. Cool. All right. So my name is Ronan, and like Rabbi Stephen said, if you have been to a high holiday service or a Saturday morning service in the last couple of years, I have probably greeted you or handed you some kind of prayer book. I'm very thankful to be here. I'm a little bit nervous, so please forgive me. So this week, we read from Parshat Korach. To give a quick summary, we're in the book of Numbers. Things have not really been going very well for the Israelites lately. They've been exiled to the wilderness and denied entrance to the promised land. We're told they wandered the desert for 40 years as a consequence of their lack of faith. And then on top of all of that, Korach, a Levite, decides to rebel against Moses. You may recall a couple of weeks ago, Moses was complaining to God about how much work it was to be the sole leader of the Israelites. So God said, pick 70 elders to share your burden with. Korach and 250 other people did not like that at all. They did not like that division of power, and they felt like they'd been passed over for these important positions. You've gone too far, they say. All of our community are holy. Every Israelite is holy. Why have you raised yourself above us? And being confronted, Moses is said to literally have fallen on his face, and he tells Korach and his followers, bring offerings to God the next morning. If you're accepted, then great. Korach was right, Moses was wrong, the Israelites are all equally holy, and Moses will reevaluate the distribution of power and influence in the community. And then Moses says, this rebellion is taking things too far. Isn't it enough that you are Levites, that you have special duties in the Mishkan and in our society? Are you trying to make yourselves priests too? Moses is reminding Korach here, he is not just an everyday rank-and-file Israelite being squashed by Moses and Aaron and the elders. He is literally part of the establishment. He already has power. That's not enough for Korach. The next day, Moses and Aaron gather with Korach and his followers at the Mishkan, the spiritual center of the camp, and lo and behold, God's presence shows up. God speaks through Moses to say God is condemning Korach and his followers to death. The ground opens up underneath them and swallows them, their homes, and all of their belongings. All in all, about 14,000 people die. In the Talmud, in Pirkei Avot, we are told about machloket l'shem shamayim, an argument for the sake of heaven. If the purpose of an argument is for the sake of heaven, that is, with the goal of arriving at some kind of truth where the arguing parties can treat each other with love and respect and friendship, that argument will be remembered as something that we can learn from. But if an argument is based on singular, selfish motivation with the goal of hurting others or gaining personal power, it is not for the sake of heaven. The Talmud literally cites Korach as the example for this type of argument. Now that we have some context and background, what does Korach have to do with Pride Month? A lot! While I am not going to say in a public forum that bigots and transphobes should be swallowed into the earth, I do think their ideas should be. Korach, to me, shows us that some ideas are dangerous. Not every argument is worth listening to. Rabbi Lauren Grable Herman says there can be no debates over dignity. We have a right to say, I will not entertain your argument. As Jews, we are told that all people, yes, all people, every single one of us, is created in the image of the divine. That is not up for debate. The exponential increase in transphobic hate speech and legislation over the last 3 years has prompted me to set some boundaries and question public figures' true intentions. When J.K. Rowling, a billionaire with an enormous influence, says she is trying to protect lesbians by excluding trans women from public life, that is not the kind of allyship I want. When Joe Rogan and Matt Walsh, part of the establishment even if they pretend not to be on all of their podcasts, compare the existence of trans people to the oppressive society of The Handmaid's Tale as a way to say adolescent girls are at risk of being forced into being trans, maybe they don't have any children's best interests at heart. In that vein, I've been thinking a lot lately about the concept of what we owe to each other. This was originally posed by the philosopher T.M. Scanlon in a book of the same name that came out in 1998. I genuinely can't find out how popular the book was when it first came out, partially because I was about 2 years old and could not read yet. But the TV show The Good Place definitely gave it a bit of a bump in popularity. I'm going to spoil a little bit of The Good Place now. It started airing in 2016 and it ended 3 years ago. Please do not get mad at me. In the first season, there's an episode where the concept of what we owe to each other is introduced. Chidi, the anxious philosophy professor who died from his own indecision, gives a copy of Scanlon's book to Eleanor as a way to try and teach her how to be a better person. Without giving away the show's ending, Eleanor finishes reading the book at the very end of the final season, after the main characters have not only worked to improve themselves as individuals, but come together to save humanity and reform the afterlife system because they feel it is their moral duty. The idea behind the book is the philosophical and ethical theory of contractualism, which, in a nutshell, says we should fulfill our moral duties to one another by creating and living by moral rules that no one person can reasonably reject. As part of a community, it's my duty, my moral duty, to look out for other members of that community. As a queer and trans person of relative privilege, it is a moral imperative for me to lift up and support my queer and trans siblings, especially those who live in states or countries where they are under attack. Unlike Korach, denying privilege in favor of gaining power, I can and should acknowledge my position and use that privilege for good. I grew up in Virginia, and when I came out as queer and trans in high school in the mid-2010s, I felt relatively pretty safe, actually. We had a Democratic governor who was not perfect, but who ran partially and won partially on his support of gay marriage. My parents were, and still are, represented in the state legislature by a trans woman, Danica Rome. I was able to get my name legally changed without a whole lot of hassle and for about $40. It's pretty easy. If I was a teenager in Virginia today, I would not feel safe in my home state. I would not come out until I could safely leave my home state. In the most recent legislative session, 12 bills were introduced. They would ban trans youth from accessing gender-affirming care. They would require teachers to tell parents if a child begins to identify as anything other than their biological sex assigned at birth. They ban trans children and youth from participating in sports, particularly trans girls. They ban schools from using children's preferred names. And most egregiously, they ban the use of the words abuse and neglect when referring to children whose parents will not allow them to transition. These laws, no matter the reasoning behind them, are not and will not ever be for the sake of heaven. It is our duty to stand up to the people writing these bills to say, this debate over dignity has no place in our society. The reason I keep coming back to what we owe to each other is because it seems so simple. I owe it to trans children to use my voice and whatever privilege I have to protect them. I owe it to myself to exist joyfully and to make it known that my existence is not up for debate. Our existence is not a machlochet l'shem shemayim. It is a truth to be realized. Trans people are not Bigfoot. We have always been here, we will always be here. Trans people will outlive transphobia just as the Israelites outlived Korach. May every law that places a trans person, a trans child in danger, be swallowed into the earth like Korach and his followers, leaving nothing but our joy, our resistance, and our beautiful resilience behind. Thank you.
Can I invite people to stand? You can stay up here and sing with us. We're going to turn to page 5 and, sanctify the end of the sermon with this prayer, this song by Batya Levine, We Rise. Everybody got a snap, though. We rise, humbly hearted rise, won't be divided, rise, with Spirit to guide us, rise, in hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here, in hope, in prayer, we're right here, in hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here, in hope, in prayer, we're right here, and we rise, all of the children rise, elders with wisdom rise, ancestors surround us rise, in hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here, in hope, in prayer, we're right here, in hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here, in hope, in prayer, we're right here, and we rise, humbly rise, rise, with tears and with courage, rise, fighting for life, we rise, in hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here, in hope, in prayer, we're right here, in hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here, in hope, in prayer, we're right here, and we rise, humbly hearted rise, won't be divided, rise, with Spirit to guide us, rise.
Woo!
Yeah. Thank you, Ronan. We're going to turn back to 4, close out our service tonight.
So we turn out to the Mourner's Kaddish as we reach the end of our service. Remember those who are not with us today. In particular, I think on this day, entering Pride Weekend, we remember all of those who are not with us but should be with us, whether through hate or violence or negligence or rejection. If you're remembering somebody tonight, whether it's their yard site, or you're in a period of mourning, or it just feels like the right time to remember them, I invite you to rise. The tradition is to bring their names into this space. And so we'll just look around this space and we'll say the names aloud. We may not be all able to hear them, but we feel their presence.
Sheldon Harnick.
Maybe all the way back there. May all of their memories be for a blessing. We're on page 5. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
Be'alma divrach chirutei ve'amlich malchutei. B'chayachon uvyomechon uvchayei zechol Beit Israel. Ba'agala ubizman kari v'imru
Amen.
Amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam umei almayam. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitraman v'yitnaseh. V'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal shemei tikudisha brichu. La'ela mikol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechamata. Da'amiran be'alma v'imru
Amen.
Yehei shlama Rabbah min shemaya. V'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen.
Amen.
Oseh shalom b'mromav. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru Amen.
Amen. At our first service out here, the one that I was talking about before, where we were all a little bit nervous, there was this thing that happened where somebody yelled out of a car window right as we were going into the Shema. And, you know, as I said, we were all like, oh no, you know, what's going to happen? And so this was the moment where something happened. And this guy leans out of his car window clearly as we're going into the most sacred moment of the night and yells, I love, it rhymes with the second planet from the sun. And it was right as I love Venus, except it started with a P.
Yeah, we got it. We got it, Lizzie.
No, you didn't get it because nobody laughed. But at that moment, we all exhaled, and then we said the Shema, and everything was fine. And there were a couple of people out here who yelled, "Me too!" I want to invite us to stand. We're going to go into a prayer for world peace. Also a Debbie Friedman tune. This one comes in 2 parts, so as I'm singing one part, you know the other one. Maybe Rachel and Emily will hold down the other part. Oh, say shalom bimromav, uya say shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, amen. Oh, say shalom
Yaseh Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol Yoshei Tevel. Amen. Oseh Shalom bimromahu Yaseh Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol Yoshei Tevel. Amen.
Shkoyach. Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom. Oh yeah, we're marching in the Pride Parade on Sunday, and
if you take one of the flags with you, you are morally obligated to show up and support us in the parade. No, please enjoy them, but enjoy them all weekend. But if you can make it to the parade, if you're interested in marching and have not signed up, come talk to me. Otherwise, it'd be lovely to see some Mishkanites on the route. We are marching rain or shine, apparently. So we're doing it because Pride happens, rain or shine.
That's right. That's right. All right. Shabbat
Shabbat shalom, everyone.
everybody. Oh, treats?